we have had a lot on the policy pronouncement, what UNDP is offering, and the different initiatives that are there at government level. But it's very important that we also hear from the women themselves. And as we have this panel, and as we are celebrating International Women's Day, this year is particularly very significant for us because we are also 30 years into Beijing. So we've walked a 30-year journey around Beijing Declaration, where most of our pronouncements, our aspirations in terms of where we want to go as women and what needs to be done is embedded. So in that same spirit of Beijing Plus 30, and also celebrating every woman that is here, from the business side, social side, development side, I think it's important that we celebrate all women that are here and we celebrate each other as women. So I take this opportunity to celebrate all women that are here, those that are listening, and to our esteemed panelists that are here. It's really important that we acknowledge each other and we celebrate each other in the spirit of Beijing. As I'll take from your words, Nicholas, that we have an esteemed panelist here. Women who are pioneers in their own right. We have had so many instruments that have been articulated, the protocol that Komi spoke about. But we are interested in really finding out what their lived realities, their journey is. And often at times we speak policy, but I'm happy we have policymakers. We want to hear from the women. So we have this group of women here. I'll start off with our first panelist, Samrawit Moges. Let me go to Moges. Yes. Okay. We really want to understand generally some of the challenges. I think they have been articulated, but from your own perspective, you have Chancho, vegetable and fruit company, Village Ethiopia, and you have been exporting both internally within the region, but also you have been trading internally. We really want to hear from you, what are some of the opportunities that you see, but equally important, what are some of the challenges that you have encountered as a woman entrepreneur in engaging in intra-Africa trade? Linked to that, our first question, again, it will be also important for you to also share with us. We have policymakers, we have UNDP, we have other partners that are here. How do you expect the HerAfCFTA to influence your business operations? What market expansion opportunities do you foresee under HerAfCFTA? So that's the first question I'll pose to you. Two questions.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Allow me, because I am wearing two hats. I am in the tourism sector as well as in the agriculture. And I would like to start, with the tourism.
Can you use your mic?
Yeah. As a woman entrepreneur, engaging in tourism and agriculture, I have encountered was opportunities and significant challenges. I'd like to highlight the tourism. The tourism part. There is a great interest in Pan-African travel demand for culture, religious tour, Ethiopia being the absolute appropriate platform for such the Orthodox and halal tourism. This opportunity, as in African intertrade, should be portrayed very openly. Women empowerment in business, I'd like to give an immense recognition to Kawe that really allows me to take part in trade fairs, particularly within the African countries. And this allows us to create networking, like Dr. Regis said, with AWE, as well as with Kawe. It has allowed us to get good networking possibilities. As you all know, MICE tourism in Ethiopia is growing a lot. And recently, there is a new African convention that has been opened in the country that creates an immense opportunity for conferences, incentive, and many like. But let me focus on the challenge of these issues. One, why is the tourism is not growing right now? Because it's mainly political instability. How made it difficult to attract, retain African tourists and business travelers. Not only that, the high rate of airfare also is another challenge for African travelers to travel within the country. At the same time, travel make expensive African tourists to visit Ethiopia is another thing. And the bureaucratic trades, the visa issue. Some countries have a smooth visa where you get in 3 minutes, but if the visa facilitation is not as it used to be, I mean, we are not attracting tourists. So these complex visa regulation, inconsistency policies, and high taxation also need to be addressed. Okay, when I come to the agri business, yes, Ethiopian commodities, Ethiopian agriculture is getting recognition, no doubt about that. This is I export 2 flowers, Statice, Astromeria. What makes us different from many flowers is Statice stays for over a year, while the Astromeria's base life is 3 weeks. So this export is going very well. Where? In Holland. We also export vegetables. Where does it go? To Holland. Why not we send these flowers to African countries? Why not? There was ladies who came from Rwanda once. They visited the farm and said they buy that Statice flower, Astromeria, from Holland. But had you been able to create the trade market within Africa, the cost would have been minimized and our export will grow. We need to add value addition agro export. There is a growing trend of adding value which can enhance competitiveness in African market. One thing that I really like about women-led agribusiness is getting recognition on the mentorship. You know, you are requested to mentor, which is a very positive issue. Strengthening African agriculture value chain can create more opportunities. And again, what is the challenge? Again, inconsistent transport network, the cold room logistics, especially for those who are exporting perishable goods. The cold room is very vital. Women entrepreneurs in agribusiness with difficulty in accessing loans. This is a fact. Finance is another issue. And unpredictable weather, hunger, pest is also another issue that we face. What do I expect from inter-African trade? One thing that I really wanted to underline is, are we all educated about the inter-African or the intra-African? I strongly believe that creating awareness needs to be done. You need to educate us. It has been shared that there is a policy portfolio. How many of us are aware? I am not. So educating us on this inter-African trade, I believe that women can benefit immensely. Back to you, Madam Odeleye.
Well, thank you very much, Moges, for ably articulating some of the opportunities, challenges. I think it goes on to really reinforce some of the issues that colleagues have been speaking to. The issue of infrastructure. We have suitable infrastructure that is also appropriate for our women entrepreneurs. These are things that we need to look into. And you ended on a very good note, which I think was also alluded to, the issue around, do we have the requisite knowledge? Have we invested enough to make sure that women understand what this protocol, the different policy positions that are there and how they are supposed to benefit? Have we simplified it enough, and what is the reach? So thank you very much for those challenges, which I think are very critical and have already been highlighted. So moving to the next, those that have questions for her, please just take your questions. Once we are done, you will have the opportunity to engage further with her. Moving to our next speaker, who is joining us online. The beauty about this panel is we are not only looking at what is happening in Ethiopia, but we also want to hear what is also happening with other women entrepreneurs, because the whole objective is how do we begin to trade with each other. So this conversation is really well positioned and placed. So we have another entrepreneur, a trailblazer and a pioneer in her own right, Ms. Adebisi Odeleye, who has a company which is called More Organics. I think Amata is alluded to that. And from here, we really want to zero in on issues related to participation. How are women participating? At this, I've got two questions for you. I see you're already online. You can shift your attention. She's joining us online. What are some of the key obstacles that limit women's full participation when it comes to cross-border trade? And how do you think the CFTA would really help us to address these challenges? That's the first question. Linked to that, please also help us maybe in unpacking some of the specific gender-responsive support that you think is really needed to help women-owned businesses to really meaningfully engage within the scope of the CFTA and scale up their work in light of the different value chains that we have. So over to you, Adebisi.
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator, and thank you so much for having me. I will stand on existing protocol. I'm so honored to be here, and I'll just go right into the question. The question was, what are the key obstacles that is affecting women from full participation in cross-border trade, and how the African Free Trade Zone, can help address these challenges, how the HerAfCFTA can address these challenges. So basically, I think I'm going to summarize what the challenges that I've faced as a woman entrepreneur that have been able to ship across different African countries, Kenya, Namibia, Ghana, and one of the major ones is trade policy, lack of harmonized trade policy. But so that we can take out something from here, I would like to use an acronym called TEAP, T-E-A-P. The first thing is lack of harmonization of trade policies and certifications, especially for those that are in production of food, skincare, and pharmaceutical, herbal products. It is very important that we have like an harmonized trade policy. If we look at the EU or even North America, they have a trade policy. They have trade policies that helps, for easy movement. For instance, the FDA, for instance, can be used in places like Canada, like Mexico, like the US. But in Africa right now, every country wants you to have their own certifications, localized certifications. Unfortunately, I'm in Nigeria and it might be dark right now. The light has just been taken, but I'm sure you can still hear me anyways. The other major thing would be entry and exit, like the first panelist mentioned. It's very important that the government and also the public-private partnerships and organizations and countries come together and ensure that there is easy movement of both goods and individuals that are participating in any form of trade. I remember when we were coming to Namibia, we were able to get our visa early hours of the day of the flight. It got to a point we were wondering if we would still be going or we would not be going. And I feel that for HerAfCFTA should really work, then we really need that easy movement of both goods, services, and humans along the value chain. The next thing, which is is access to finance, access to equipment, access to raw materials, and of course, access to market. Access to finance is really, really important because at the end of the day, we always say this thing in Nigeria that money is the lifeblood of any business. Where there is no finance, where there is no money, then it is a little bit hard for you to really execute business or participate in business. So access to finance and access to equipment. And I mean, finance can come in different ways. It could be equipment financing, it could be raw materials financing. And by the end of that, we should also have access to market where all of this finished goods can be sold. And I would also be talking briefly, which is the P, participation of the public-private partnerships. Individual businesses cannot do it alone. Thank God for organizations like UNDP that is doing this project. But of course, we also want to integrate the informal sector participation in this value chain, because the truth is that the informal sectors, they are almost the lifeline of the business, especially the women at the bottom of the pyramid of the value chain, the women on the fields. We need to strengthen them, because lack of strengthening of those grassroots women would affect the overall production and participation in the trade across the continent. And then the second question, you spoke about the specific gender responsive solutions that is needed for women-owned businesses. And I mean, I've spoken about the challenge in the first place. I will talk about the solutions that I feel that can be preferred across the continent under this protocol to ensure that women really benefit. The first is access to finance, just like I said the other time. But this time, we should make the finance gender sensitive, access to grants, access to equity and impact investments. These are very important. So if you look like my country, for instance, a place like Nigeria, the credits for you to access loan, your interest rate would be between 35 to 40%. How many women can afford that as an extra cost on their businesses? Do you understand? So access to finance is very important. Another thing is export readiness program, which are capacity building for women that wants to go into export, so that they can learn how it is done, from the branding to the packaging to the production. All of this needs to be put in place so that women can easily trade across, the continent, and even beyond across the continent, even outside of the continent, because Africa is positioned as a lifeline of the world at the moment, and we need to take that position. Another thing that is extremely important is regional and, continental market. And like one of the facilitators spoke earlier, she mentioned the buyers, having buyers on ground, to be able to network with the women entrepreneurs and of course connect and make trade happen. Then ensuring that there are implementation of the women and youth protocols that were listed earlier on, because I think right now what Africans should be doing as a continent is the execution of policies. There are a lot of fantastic policies on ground. However, how is the execution coming? So this is a challenge to all the leaders and policymakers, that we need to start breaking down the policies and ensuring that they are working. And of course, building monitoring and evaluation system so that we can know the progress. We know where we are, we know where we're coming from, and we know where we're going to as a continent. And lastly, I would like to talk just briefly on infrastructure and logistics support. I know that the first panelist mentioned it, but I would like to say a big kudos to the UNDP Nigerian team, because last year it was mentioned that they are partnering with a lot of post office specific post offices in Nigeria to ensure that there is easy movement of products from Nigeria, into other African countries. And I feel that these are some of the things that other African countries can also look at, because it is really saddening that when you buy things from Alibaba or even Amazon, it gets easier to any African country than when you buy things between African countries. So I think things like that, infrastructure and logistical support should be provided for the African market. And I believe that, in closing, that the African women are ready for the market, but the question is, are we ready to take the bull by the horn and ensure that there is good playing field for the women to really thrive? Thank you very much.
I think the question that you posed, are we ready and do we have a good playing field? That's a very important question to end on. And you have raised most of the issues that have been raised around infrastructure. This keeps on coming. Is our infrastructure fit for purpose when it comes to the CFTA? And not only fit for purpose, is it responsive and adequately responding to the realities that our women entrepreneurs are faced with? It's not only about infrastructure, but is it gender responsive? Is it really addressing or responding to the realities? And the issue of information, I will not belabor the point, critically important. Our women are saying we need to make sure that they are aware, which means there's still work that needs to be done, and how are we going to move forward with that? You have aptly articulated the solutions around finance. I think it has already been highlighted. Having said that, we move to our next panelist, who is here with us physically, Semhal, who is the founder and CEO of Cabana Design, who's seated next to me. And Semhal, for you, we really want you to zero in on access to information. I know colleagues have highlighted this, but we also want to hear your experience as a women entrepreneur. How aware are women entrepreneurs in your perspective of the CFTA and its potential benefits? You engage with other fellow entrepreneurs, but also as an entrepreneur yourself, do you feel you adequately understand what this protocol or this instrument provides for? And how can we improve women's access to financial services? Most of the colleagues have highlighted the issue of finance. In your own wisdom, what are some of the things that we need to consider to improve women's access to finance and overcome this challenge, related also to digital payment systems, which was highlighted, where we have different currencies? How do we also come up with, well, I know the CFTA Secretariat is in the process of coming up with a system, but just for your insights, how do we also come, address those challenges that are related to digital payment system to support participation of women in cross-border trade within Africa? Over to you.
Thank you, Cleo. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor to be talking about access and information, which I believe is a very important and difficult title to be given. HerAfCFTA, thank you, Dr. Nixie, for saying HerAfCFTA is very difficult to say. I thought it's because English is not my first language, but I see that many are also struggling with it. First, I'd like to say thank you. When I heard the highlights from UNDP on HerAfCFTA presentation and what it offers in the near future for women entrepreneurs like myself, and then echoing also on what Dr. Nixie said on HerAfCFTA, that initiative stemming from UNDP Renewed Strategic Focus on Africa. This will help us really unlocking many trade barriers that have been significantly hindering many entrepreneurs like myself within the ecosystem. So Cabana has been exporting for the last 8 years. And then, funny enough, we've only been exporting towards African continent within the last 3-4 years after COVID. When AGOA was closed off, when European Union had a lot of stock after COVID and they were not able to sell. So we were able to go back to our roots, may I say that, and then see what are available there. So towards your questions of how women like myself, entrepreneurs, have like knowledge or access to it, I think within our context of Ethiopia, because it has not been implemented, not a lot of proactive initiatives has been done. But I believe Kawi members have received training. So because of that, we're lucky. But I don't believe that a lot of entrepreneurs within Ethiopia, and we've been trading in Kabana in Rwanda as well, have knowledge of the benefits of AFTCA. And the African Continental Free Trade Zone area has many things, right? It can facilitate market access, it can facilitate reduce trade barriers, it can create new opportunities. I mean, examples of, we've been able to trade with Djibouti, Kenya, Sudan easily. Not myself, but other companies have been trade because we have bilateral agreements. Imagine that being open towards the whole of our continent and the kind of tradings that can be done through that. And I think not only would it allow us to have market access to it, but also inputs like raw materials. Specifically to my sector, that we know that there are enough materials in Kenya, like for example zippers, accessories. There are enough lining materials in Ghana and Namibia that we can be able to access, but because of the high tariffs from importing that, we're not able to trade within this country. So I think these are the kind of some of the benefits that would allow us. Recent data, like Ethiopia has like trade signatory trades with agreements with countries, as was mentioned. It can be seen during the presentations from UNDP that Ethiopia has been exporting through Africa to Djibouti, Sudan, and it consumes 87 because those exports are being that high because of the bilateral agreements in Kenya. And fortunately, we have agreements with China, with European Union, new one, I think it was launched last year with British. So we've been able to trade, for example, my company has been able to trade with US before AGOA, even we currently do it, but it has been reduced by 70% because of tariffs that they have to pay. We've been able to trade with Germany, we've been highly able to trade with a few countries of German-speaking countries within Europe. This was because of the benefits of the free trade agreements that Ethiopia has signed. So I'm just pressing on the matter that if we do have, I can be able to reach to my Nigerian friends and say hi, this is what we do. There's no tariff, so this can be the exports that we can do with you. So Ethiopia has been, past history with COMESA countries, Common Market for Eastern and South Africa, been able to trade because of that. And this has allowed us, for my company, to grow revenue. So I really believe that having that access would allow us not only in benefiting in financial, but allowing us to open new markets, unlocking new trades, and then growing our markets and creating more job opportunities. Ethiopia has the youngest population, our average is 19, right? So it would allow to open a lot of job opportunities for our fellow Ethiopians. I want to say here that a lot of focus, the dominant narrative focus is on startups. But I really believe that if UNDP and like-minded organizations are also focusing on HerAfCFTA, it's not. I know it's not only on startups, but I really believe mature businesses, 2 years and plus 3 years, 5 years, are ready to be exporting more, have a history of it, with a very small knowledge, or Samrawit has mentioned it earlier as well, with a few trainings, mentorships, and programs that are designed to push us forward. I really believe that we can be able to, to open new tradings. For your second questions, I hope I have highlighted the importance and benefits of it before I jump to finance.
Yes.
Okay. In regards to finance, more than me, Mr. Kobe has mentioned it earlier of what kind of, how can we improve finance, access to finance services and overcome the challenges related to digital payment systems. I'm not an expert in this area, nor am I a bank to be saying these are the, the open things that women can access, but I really believe new innovative financing models should be opened up. I think organizations like UNDP and other international development organizations who want to push AFTCA forward should work with banks or private banks, not only government banks. Also continental banks like HerAfCFTA and other banks as well. How do we get innovative financing models that are gender sensitive, that have credit guarantee system that would allow us to be trading a more, more openly, right? In Ethiopia, the collateral is, I think most entrepreneurs here would agree, is 300%, right? To get a loan. But how can we get a very gender sensitive lending system? How can we get credit? How can we have fundings and grants to help us pilot tradings that are opening up? I think one of the more important points is that. And maybe organizations like how we can have for us, the members, a more financial literacy programs that would allow us on loans, on grant schemes, how to manage that, and on the improved digital payment systems. A lot of things from Telebir to each individual banks have opened up, like Chapa, like payment systems have been there in Ethiopia. Unfortunately, Ethiopia's trading on, like, it's not like Kenya, for example, like M-Pesa has been, has been there forever, right? And it is one of the pioneer mobile banking systems in the world. Right, but how can we catch up? Like other developing countries, how can we catch up to that? From Rwanda, I stayed in Rwanda for about 2 years, and you can be able to trade with all Eastern African countries and be able to pay. If I'm buying anything from Kenya, I can be from Mongo, so that's the equivalent of Telebir. You can be able to pay like to M-Pesa's like number code. So that kind of answers of like the currency balances that we can do. So I think below HerAfCFTA, I'm sure there are currency adjustments or currency equivalents that can be done, because other African countries have done it. COMESA, Eastern Africa traders have done it before, so I really believe that that can be done as well. So mentioning as well is lower transaction costs. I'm sure banks would see it as a benefit to, to guinea pig on this in a positive, also negative way. There's higher transaction costs. So how do we lower that? I think those are my points. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Semhal. That's very insightful. You have again emphasized things that colleagues have highlighted. And what is coming out, which I think is also very important, how do we also look at the bilateral agreements, the models that and how they have facilitated as we look at the CFTA, how do we create proper linkages? Because clearly where these agreements are in place, we are seeing trade is happening, and how women are benefiting is something else. But you're saying that's the platform that you've used. So in the conversation of the CFTA, how do we leverage on countries where there are already bilateral agreements? So that's another innovative way of looking at it. While we are still trying to look at the mechanisms of how the CFTA, the alignments that you're talking about, the harmonization of policies, and the issue of also the digital payment systems where they are not aligned, and where they are aligned, how do we scale up? So you have raised a number of interesting issues, which I think our colleagues that are listening, the policymakers that are listening, can also critically look into. Even as UNDP, we can also see how do we capitalize on already existing bilateral agreements to really push the needle when it comes to women effectively engaging and taking part into that outside maybe the broader CFTA. And thank you for maybe endorsing our branding of the HerAfCFTA, really where we are trying to position women and making sure that they are at the center of everything that we do. And this banner, I don't know who also commented and rightfully captures it, to say women shaping the One Africa market. This is what is CFTA, and it's something that I think we need to scale up. Having said that, we go back, okay, we are not going online. We moved to Yezi. I had a couple of discussions with Yezi. I'm going to shorten your name for purposes of these discussions, and thank you very much for agreeing that I shorten your name. Yezi, who is the CEO for the Day Agro Industry, And yes, we want you to really touch on issues related to skill. Colleagues have highlighted, fellow panelists have highlighted the issue, the importance. Maybe you touch on your experience as a trader, as an entrepreneur, and other experiences that you might have. What type of support and capacity building programs would be beneficial to equip women with the skills necessary to succeed under the CFTA in your own wisdom? And how can we promote women's participation in sectors with high growth potential? We have been talking about the regional value chains, but we know which regional value chains. How do we make sure that we integrate the informal sector? So I would want you to share your insights based on that, building on to what other panelists have said. Over to you, Yezi.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. And I would like to thank UNDP and Kawe giving us this opportunity to air our problem, challenges, and also the good part about FST. Look at this now, this FST is a hard name. I mean, there is a lot of opportunity because, yes, Ethiopia is a land of a home of over 100 million people. But imagine from 100 to 1.3 billion, trading with 1.3 billion Africa. So it's a very great opportunity in front of us. But how do we go about it? How are we going to utilize, this opportunity? So for us, especially in Ethiopia, we haven't started trading with HerAfCFTA, and we specifically need to have a technical training. Like, we can start with, what's the trade barrier? What's the trade agreement? What is the origin? And what is the dispute, the dispute management? All this we need to have a training. Thanks to Kawe, that we have been, some of us have been exposed, but here we are talking in terms of the larger, women entrepreneurial community. So we need to have this type of training for all of us. Like regional trade policies, for example, what's the regional trade policy for us, for women? So we need to have, common understanding for that. Custom procedure, what does it mean, custom procedure, for us? How are we going to benefit out of it? And all this, we need, a trade policy and regulation framework training. And the other one is the digital skill. Digitalization, it's an era of digitalization. How many of us, know to pay in digital form? I know that there is a commercial platform nowadays in our country, but do you really, all of us use this? Leave alone, to trade within Africa. So we need to have an e-commerce digital training, like, how do you communicate digitally with our customers in Africa? And the other thing is access to market. As I have said and mentioned several times, there's an opportunity for the market, but how are we going to access it? Where do we get the information? For example, in our case, we produce fruit jam from locally sourced fruits. So where is the market for my jam? How am I going to access that market? So this information needs really a deepened training. And we have also, again, thank you to Kawe. We have been to some trade fair so that we see how it looks like, how the other, women are trading. But what about the rest of the women who didn't get all this opportunity? So there must be a chance, whether it's produced, arranged here or internationally, there would be a communication, be able to access those platforms. The other one is the legal and contract termination. I would just it reminds me when I started my company 14 years ago, I went to one supermarket and said, do you have an agreement? I said, what agreement? I'm just selling jam. So no, we have to have an agreement. And then I have to dig, what's that agreement? Where am I going to get it? How am I going to adapt it? And then finally I have to look for a lawyer so that he can help me. So we need to have this training as well. Like, for example, all of us, I'm sure, we have registered our company logo and our products. But the majority of our women, we didn't know how to keep our name, legally. So we need to also to have a training on this one. And the other thing is for the high growth women. It has been said several times, we need a policy advocacy. Who are women? What are they doing? And we have to have a positive, affirmative for a women entrepreneur. Like Dr. Moges was mentioning that, 64% of the procurement, the government procurement is, the budget is for local procurement. How many of us are you really using? How do you access those opportunities? So we need to have really lobbying and advocacy for this one. I'm sure all of us who were mentioning access to finance. If for some of them, of course, for the startup, it could be a seed money, but for SMEs, we have to have an accelerated finance so that we can grow our company and also reach this 1.3 million market. So access to finance is also a critical issue. The other one is women networking, like I mentioned several times. We need to have a women networking like Kawe or other women organization, or also a mentorship so that people who have been in the market for a long time can learn, teach them or guide them for the startup. And the other ones is it could be also a good awareness creation. What's HerAfCFTA or what women are doing in the country, So it needs to be also an awareness creation session and a public business public partner also. So thank you.
No, thank you very much. And, apologies, I think I was rushing you. I was giving you the eye, but I'm looking at our time. I think you have said it all in terms of the practical strategies, what we need to consider as we move forward, which is reinforcing what other panelists have highlighted. We will open up the discussion later if colleagues have any questions. We come to our last panelist who's also joining us online from Nigeria, Amina. Amina, who is the CEO of Amenuru Nigeria Enterprise, and she's really going to be touching on the last point that you highlighted around networking, collaboration, and mentoring. And Amina, I also have two questions for you. The first question is, how can we facilitate networking, collaboration among women entrepreneurs across Africa? And what role can women organizations play in promoting women's engagement in the CFTA? Those are the two questions. Over to you, Amina.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for this great opportunity. My name is Amina Izuagbe. We are into agro-food processing and packaging. We actually have 8 products. They are all NAFDAC, FDA, and HACCP registered. We are based in Nigeria, Edo State. Thank you so much for this great opportunity. I'll go straight to the question. It said, how can we facilitate networking and collaboration among women entrepreneurs? I want to first of all say thank you to UNDP for that great opportunity they gave us in Namibia trip. We learned a lot, and I was fortunate to be among the people that went to Egypt 2 years ago, 2003 too. So I had experience over there too. So our biggest problem is networking among women is, the biggest one is finance. Our challenge is finance, access to markets. Access to market, access to information, access to networking, is our major problem. And for us to come to solve this problem, or to come together to have this problem discussed, we have to establish a cluster. We have to come in a group as a cluster, in different associations. We come as a cluster to discuss how we can, engage in this networking issue. First of all, I would say we'll take advantage of the online marketing. Online, to discuss online how we are going to be solving this problem will help us in the online, and build a strong cross-border partnership too, and creating networks within industries among agricultural manufacturers is also our problem, and government too has to help us in this networking issue. So I want to start from, like, in organizing the clusters. We want to say we'll come together, engage in meetings like conferences, we host conferences, have trade fairs, organize annual summits among women that we can showcase our businesses, encourage each other, encourage joint ventures too. We have to encourage joint ventures where we can partner together, women can partner together, different countries come together, we share ideas, ideas and experience together. We also can come together to facilitate trade mission through new markets. When we come together, we explain new markets. And how can we do all this? We need the help of UNDP, because all of this include finance. All of this, we need finance, we need support. Because women cannot do it alone. We are small businesses. We need support. We also need equipment to build capacity. We need to build capacity among us. We need mentorship also, mentorship to support the women, where even the successful women can guide the upcoming young women, upcoming entrepreneurs to grow. We have to, like I said, we have to create a cooperative where we can also help ourselves put resources together to support the startup among us. So those are the rules. For the collaboration, for the second question for collaboration.
Amina, I would really request maybe you give us 2 strategies that you think are very critical. I'm just being mindful of time. Really apologies for rushing you, but if you can just articulate 2 strategic strategies that we can consider. Over to you.
2 really very important key is the biggest is access to finance. Access to finance. We need finance. We need finance to build capacity. We need access to equipment, modern solar equipment. We need to encourage ourselves to come together, network, host each other for conferences, summit where women can come together, encourage each other for the upcoming women to grow in their businesses too. Mentorship is another very important point. So funding, I would say, is very, very key. Funding. support for equipment. So those are my key points: funding, coming together, creating a cluster, a cooperative where we can support each other, and we need support from UNDP for access to market, access to modern equipment, and easy access to, like one of our speakers said today, access to logistics. To export products from Nigeria to African countries is very, very difficult. If they can equip our post office, it will be very easy for us to export. And also women organization must closely work with the government, or UNDP should help us work with the government to also implement easy way to access finance too. It's just around finance or in all of it. So those are my points. Thank you so much for this great opportunity.
So having said that, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our panel. And let me really pay my utmost respect and acknowledgement to these ladies, pioneers in their own right. Those that are also joining us from Nigeria, thank you very much for taking time to really share your experience and add value to this discussion. And to our ladies that are here, really happy International Women's Day, and continue to, hold the trail. And let's mentor more young women as we, stay on course on this journey. But thank you very much.